There's a particular kind of person who will remember exactly what you said about your sister at a party 3 years ago. The specific phrase you used, the way your voice changed when you said it, and still have absolutely no idea what your name is. They're not careless, they're not arrogant, they're not half-present. In fact, the reason they remember everything real about you and nothing about your name is the same reason. And that reason is going to make you question every assumption you've had about your own memory and probably about the last 10 people who forgot yours. The brain doesn't forget randomly. It forgets in a very specific, very documented pattern. And by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly where you fall in that pattern and why the thing you've been quietly ashamed of might actually be pointing at something else entirely.
So let's start at the moment it actually happens. You meet someone new, and your brain, without asking you, immediately begins doing an enormous amount of work all at once, reading their face, registering their tone, calculating where you stand socially, whether they like you, whether you even like them. Your working memory, the short-term holding space your brain runs on, is juggling 5 or 6 things at once, and into that exact moment of peak cognitive chaos, someone hands you a single arbitrary sound. Your name. Hi, I'm Daniel. Daniel. Okay? And here's the thing about Daniel. Daniel doesn't mean anything. It doesn't connect to a concept, an image, a feeling, or anything you already know. It just sits there, isolated, in a brain that is frankly too busy to babysit it.
In 1987, researchers McWeeny and Ellis published something called the Baker paradox. They told one group that a man in a photo was a baker by profession. A separate group was told the same man's surname was Baker. Days later, the people who learned the occupation remembered it far more easily. Same word, completely different retention. Because baker as a job pulls up a whole web: flour, bread, early mornings, warmth. As a name, it pulls up nothing. It floats there, rootless. Names are semantically empty by design, and your brain preferentially holds on to things that mean something, things that connect. A name at an introduction connects to nothing yet, and the brain files it accordingly, which is to say, barely at all. You've done this. You've met someone, nodded, said nice to meet you, and within 11 seconds of the conversation, their name is just gone. Not fuzzy, gone. Like it never registered as a piece of information worth holding. Because to the brain, in that moment, it wasn't. But here's where it gets more uncomfortable. Because there's a second mechanism running underneath this one, and it's more personal than most people want to sit with. A significant portion of people who chronically forget names are not doing it because they don't care. They're doing it because they care so much about the interaction that their internal monologue completely drowns the name out. While you're introducing yourself, these people are already narrating internally. Am I making enough eye contact? Is this handshake too firm? Did I speak too fast? Should I say something or wait? The name enters their awareness briefly, and then the internal commentary bulldozes straight over it. There's a documented phenomenon called the next-in-line effect, where people waiting to speak showed dramatically reduced memory for what the person directly before them said, because in their head, they'd already moved on, already drafting, already editing themselves in real time. People who live with social anxiety or even just a hyperactive self-awareness are essentially stuck in that mode permanently, never quite here, always half a step into what comes next, which means the moment a name is handed to them, they were already somewhere else. Not because they left, because they never fully arrived, and they were the last ones to notice.
So if that's you, here's the reframe that actually matters. You don't have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem, and those are not the same thing. One is structural, one is situational, and only one of them is worth the shame you've been quietly attaching to it for years. Now, there's something worth saying about the people on the other side of this, because the sting of having your name forgotten is real, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. When someone forgets your name, especially more than once, it lands like a quiet verdict. You didn't matter enough to stick. That's what the brain hears, even when the rational part of you knows that's not what it means. Even when you've just heard every reason why it happens, the feeling doesn't wait for the explanation.
But here's what that person almost certainly did hold on to. They remember what you said, the specific frustration underneath the polished version of it. They remember an opinion you threw out casually that surprised them. They remember the way you reacted to something across the room. They were there, entirely there, just not for the name part. And this is the thing about memory that most people fundamentally misunderstand. It is not a recording. Your brain doesn't store experiences the way a hard drive stores files. It stores impressions, emotions, patterns, fragments, and it prioritizes ruthlessly. High emotion? Stored. Surprising? Stored. Connected to something already known? Stored. One arbitrary syllable handed to you at the exact moment you were busy trying to seem normal in front of a stranger. The brain makes a decision, and the name is almost never the winner. The people who forget names most easily tend to have richly contextual memory. Their brain catalogs stories, feelings, the look on someone's face when they said something that mattered. Ask them what someone was wearing at a dinner 2 years ago. They might actually tell you. Ask them what that person was called, blank, because the filing system was working. It just wasn't filing names. You've probably done this too. You run into someone you've met 3 times, maybe 4, and before they even open their mouth, you're already scanning the room for anyone who might save you by saying their name first. Or you've said, "Hey," to the same person in 4 separate conversations, the warmth in your voice completely genuine, completely masking the fact that you still don't know what to call them. Or you've spent 3 weeks privately referring to someone as the one with the blue jacket, because asking at this point feels like a confession. That's not carelessness. That's a particular cognitive architecture, one that is genuinely better suited to emotional attunement, to the kind of listening that makes people feel actually understood, and worse suited to the specific mechanical task of holding an arbitrary sound under social pressure. None of this means you shouldn't try. Repeating someone's name back when you meet them, connecting it to someone you already know. These things work. They work because you're doing manually what the brain refuses to do automatically, building the associative bridge, giving the name somewhere to live. But the shame, the quiet belief that forgetting names makes you someone who doesn't really show up for people, that part is wrong, and it deserves to be said clearly. Here's what nobody says out loud. The people who feel the most guilty about forgetting names are almost never the careless ones. They're the ones who were so busy trying to get the interaction right that they never had the bandwidth to receive the name in the first place. The forgetting is proof they were trying, not proof that they weren't. And the people whose names got forgotten, the sting is real, and it's allowed to be real. But the person who forgot was probably replaying your conversation on the drive home, remembering something you said that stayed with them, remembering you, just not what to call you. Make of that what you will, but ask yourself honestly, would you rather be truly remembered or just correctly labeled? If this made something click for you, subscribe. There's more where this came from, and it's all about understanding the quiet, specific ways the human mind actually works. Like the video if it helped. It genuinely helps more people find it.